Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Seberg, and I'm the Assistant Director for the Medical Cannabis Research Center at Drexel University. Today, we are very happy to have Chappell, who is the Director of the New Jersey Cannabis Training Academy. Pass it over to you, Tahid, for a little background on the Cannabis Training Academy and your involvement in it.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everybody, for those that are joining and for those that are going to watch this recorded video. Nice to see you all and nice to meet you all. My name is Tahi Chappell, pronouns he, him. And in this capacity, I am the Executive Director of the New Jersey Department of State's Cannabis Training Academy, which sits within the New Jersey Business Action Center, which is a division of the Department of State. Just a quick little background about who I am and how I ended up in this position. First and foremost, I am a big fan of the plant for obvious reasons, but obviously I'm also very involved in the cannabis space, community activism, and policy area. I entered the cannabis space formally after my college years, formally as a medical marijuana patient in 2012, where I was working for a TV station in Arizona. And I learned that because I have an autoimmune deficiency disorder called ulcerative colitis, which is part of the IBD/IBS family. You might have heard of Crohn's disease. I have ulcerative colitis, similar family. I was told that I could get a medical marijuana card to help alleviate some of the pain and other symptoms that are with ulcerative colitis. And so my entry point into cannabis was to understand how it, as a medicinal plant, impacted my body for someone with my condition. Fast forward a couple of years, it's 2016. I'm now working at another newsroom as a social media producer for the Washington Post. I go to a journalism conference in Colorado, which had already legalized marijuana for both medical and adult use. And it was a journalism conference, but there was a panel about covering the ongoing legalization of cannabis. And it was there that I really was exposed to the conversations and really the call to action from journalists who've been covering marijuana to really underscore the value of media and journalism and its influence on playing to public perception and influencing law and policy. It was at this conference in 2016 in Colorado that I really learned more about how obviously the war on drugs, as we know, was a lie, how marijuana was not a demonic, dangerous narcotic that had been messaged to us. And then I learned how journalists and media played a pivotal role in completely changing the public's perception on a plant that actually was included in the American pharmacopoeia well past the 1930s. So I went back with that very curiosity about how we got to where we are today. I read a couple of really, really instrumental and very, very impactful books that I highly recommend anybody reads. One being Michelle Alexander's New Jim Crow, the other being Marijuana Reconsidered by Dr. Lester Grinspoon, and the other book being Smoke Signals by Martin E. Lee. And that really gave me a really good foundational understanding about the creation of the war on drugs, the creation of cannabis prohibition, the impact that the war on drugs has had on Black, Brown, Indigenous, and LGBTQ communities, and obviously the impact that a person like me, a journalist at the time, had in trying to inform and educate the public about cannabis. So I was really, really involved in starting to cover some of the ongoing legalization efforts for the Washington Post. I did talk a lot about the inequities that we continuously see in the cannabis industry, how people were locked up for marijuana, can no longer even participate or raise money to even own and operate their own cannabis license. And I'm going to speak to how this training academy kind of helps speak to some of that. I moved to Philadelphia in 2018. I organized two cannabis conferences, one that focuses on the intersection of media and journalism in Philly and how a majority black city like Philadelphia could really play a role in cannabis legalization in Pennsylvania, and how legalization could impact a city like Philadelphia, who could use more money to address a lot of the issues around gun violence, poverty, health disparities, etc. Those conferences that happened in 2019 and 2020 during the pandemic, which was virtual, really put me on the map as a convener around the issues of ongoing inequities that we see despite cannabis legalization. Fast forward 2020, during the pandemic, I was living and house sitting at my grandparents' house in New Jersey. I got involved in the cannabis legalization efforts in New Jersey to help legalize New Jersey for adult use. I worked on a team that helped write some of the equity provisions that we see now in the law. And while I was sitting in New Jersey and where I continue to be right now, my one of my friends who was part of the activism, she's one of the best IP trademark lawyers in the country. Her name is Jessica Gonzalez. She got tapped as a consultant from the Department of State, New Jersey, to build out this technical assistance program. And in turn, she tapped me to be the executive director to initiate and run this program across the state. So, right place, right time, good amount of involvement, high consciousness, all these things kind of brought me to where I am today. And I'm very grateful to be a part of this because, as you all know, and as I hope to continue to emphasize, education is fundamental, education is critical, and education is really going to be one of the biggest factors that makes or breaks a person's opportunity to participate in the cannabis industry. I should also note too, while I was in Philadelphia before the pandemic, I worked for for the second medical marijuana dispensary to open up in the city. We were called patient advisors, glorified bud tenders, but I love the name patient advisor because we were helping patients. And we had a pharmacist on staff too, which was really dope as well. So if you want to learn about drug interactions between cannabis and other drugs, talk to a pharmacist. They know a lot. So I have some industry experience in terms of the supply chain, and I worked on the retail side before the pandemic hit. So with all that being said, what is the Cannabis Training Academy? What is this technical assistance program? What am I and what are we in New Jersey trying to implement and hopefully hope that other states take our lead and do what we're doing too. So I'm going to give a little bit of background and preview of the Cannabis Training Academy with a little bit of information of the New Jersey Business Action Center, which again is a division of the Department of State. And not many states actually have an NJ back. So if we're talking about what can we take away from this, talk about business and entrepreneur support from the state as well. This is something to think about. So the Cannabis Training Academy is an online, asynchronous, no cost, go at your own pace cannabis technical assistance program meant to help people understand the application process in New Jersey if they are interested in applying for a license. We have 10 levels with more than 60 modules that help people understand the application process page by page, step by step. And now, while we can't guarantee that you will automatically get a license should you go through our program, believe me, I wish that we could, we can very well say that if you go from level 1, by the time you finish level 10, if you are actually serious about applying for a cannabis license, you will know a lot more about your business and you will know more about what it takes to even attempt to apply for a license. And you should feel empowered to do so if you go through the experience. This is not just a one-person army, so to speak. I am surrounded by some of the best of the best. We actually took about 6 months last year to do a call for instructors to help us build out this curriculum. And after we received about 250 applications of interest, we whittled this down to 25 instructors, people who have direct experience winning licenses, direct experience working in the industry, direct experience consulting for winning licenses, direct experience in advocacy and activism, direct experience in writing laws and rules and regulations. We brought some of the best instructors both inside New Jersey and around the country to help us build out different courses that speak specifically to the New Jersey cannabis licensing application. So we are bringing a ton of information, all free, all online, go at your own pace. So let's continue. So the New Jersey Cannabis Training Academy is a state-run technical assistance program. Technically speaking, because it is a state-run program, this program is specifically meant for New Jersey residents ages 21 years and older. If you are, at the time of your registration, you attest by clicking a checkbox that you are a New Jersey resident ages 21 years and older, you will be able to successfully register into the technical assistance program and have access to the preliminary information that we are able to offer, which are levels 1 through 3, which give you a background of the law, give you a background of cannabis history, give you a little bit of background of what it's going to actually take if you want to go for a license. And that gives everyone kind of a fundamental baseline understanding on, hey, maybe getting a license is for me, I'm going to continue. Or, hey, maybe I want to do something different in the cannabis industry and let me look somewhere else or learn some other information from this program that I can take away. If we saved you some heartache, if we saved you some blood, sweat, and tears, we've also done our job. We recognize, and I'm sure many of you know, not everyone's going to be able to get a license or afford to operate a license. And so whatever information we can provide people in terms of going for a license or maybe not going for a license, we want to be able to provide that reality check with amazing information. Now, the second thing in terms of participating in this technical assistance program is that this program is also specifically meant for impact zones. These are zones that have been decided by the CRC, which is our Cannabis Regulatory Commission, the agency that oversees the adult use and medical market in New Jersey. These impact zones have been designated as zones that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, over policing, low employment, low salary, family household salary. There are certain metrics that were put into place that designated a bunch of different counties and municipalities across the state. Our technical assistance program is meant to specifically help people who either live in that impact zone or plan to build or hire from those zones as well. So what does that mean? So for those that go through levels 1 through 3 as what we're calling a general public student, if they're like, hey, I really do want to pursue the rest of my license, I definitely want to learn more about what it takes, we are asking people to attest that they would be qualified as an impact zone applicant. So what does that mean? If a student says, you know what, I'm really interested in going for a cultivation license, I want to learn more, all we have is a very brief and short attestation form with 3 checkboxes that say, do you meet any one of these 3 criteria? Do you live in one of the current impact zones in New Jersey? Do you plan on building a future cannabis business in an impact zone in New Jersey? Or do you plan on hiring future employees for your future business in an impact zone in New Jersey? If you say yes to one or a combination of 3, listen, we trust y'all. We trust who you say you are. You will be able to attest and get access to the full technical assistance program, which is levels 4 through 10. So that is kind of the way that we are able to not only just reach an entire population of 21-year-old New Jersey residents, but also make sure that people who are interested in supporting or working or hiring from impact zones can get the full technical assistance through education that they need in order to feel confident for applying for a license. So that's kind of the entry point to this. Again, this is all free, all online, all go at your own. We're just asking people that they say who they are, register as a New Jersey resident, ages 21 years and older. And if you plan on doing something in an impact zone, you'll have the rest of the technical assistance program too. So let me talk to you just a little bit about the CTA, but also the NJ Back too, because this is very important. I think something that a lot of Pennsylvania should implement and adopt as well. So the New Jersey Business Action Center is a business advocacy division within the Department of State. We do not influence policy. We do not write laws. We don't do any of that. We are here to support and advocate for small business owners and entrepreneurs in New Jersey. Basically, we function as a kind of a one-stop shop for all your business needs. If you need to figure out what do I need to do to formally create a business in New Jersey, you can come talk to us. If you're having an issue at a municipal level regarding zoning or permits or any sort of like formal applications that you need to start your business in a particular municipality, you can come to us and we can help you troubleshoot with that municipality or that county. If you need direction and you don't know which state agency to talk to about specific issues around your business, you can come talk to the New Jersey Business Action Center and we're going to point you into the right direction and connect you to the right person to get your questions answered. And if you're looking for, and this particularly speaks to cannabis entrepreneurs, if you're looking for grants, rebates, scholarships, loans, any sort of like financial assistance, and you don't know what agency to work with or talk to, you can come to us and we can help navigate you and talk to you about these programs that you could apply for, that you may be eligible for, and connect you to the right agency person so that you can ask those questions too. So the New Jersey Business Action Center is really a cool, small but mighty division that really helps people who have business questions find those answers and connect to the right people, both within the government and outside in municipality governments as well too. It's actually a really cool, vital, under-marketed resource that I didn't really realize until I got hired. I was like, oh, this exists and it's all for free? Cool, like sign me up for that. The Business Action Center has existed for 30 years. And like I said, it has a couple of different advocacy points. We have the Office of Business Advocacy that, again, helps advocate for small businesses to make sure that mom and pop shops not only survive, but thrive and grow within New Jersey. I believe higher than 75% of our businesses in the state are deemed small businesses in New Jersey. So this is a really big, important thing for us, is to make sure that those small businesses survive and are not just eaten out by, big competitors, that they are actually be able to thrive and expand across the city, or rather the state. We have an Office of Small Business Advocacy. So if you're not employing, dozens of employees, if you're a solopreneur, or you only have a team of 5 people, many which is cannabis, operators, the Office of Small Business Advocacy can help you get off the ground and also help you understand how you can expand your services, your product, or your brick and mortar if you're a small team. And then the cool thing that we have within the Business Action Center, I don't know if Pennsylvania has this somewhere, but we have an Office of Export Promotion. And this person and this team is basically responsible of exporting any New Jersey service or product outside of the state. So a lot of people are interested in learning, how does, for example, not marijuana, but how can hemp be exported out of New Jersey? When cannabis is hopefully deschedulized, when it becomes available to export around the country and around the world, the Office of Export Promotion is very much excited to start exporting some New Jersey grown weed around the country and around the world. But they are here to help New Jersey workers and owners get exposure at the national level and the international level too. So that's actually a really cool office to have. I don't know if Pennsylvania has a counterpart, but it's something to think about too in terms of ideas to integrate within this state. The Cannabis Training Academy, like I mentioned, we're here to educate, we're here to empower, we're here to establish. We want people to make the best business decisions, given the best business information that they can make for themselves, their families, and their communities. We want them to be empowered to make those good decisions for themselves, whether that means, you know what, maybe this isn't for me, I want to be a worker. Maybe this isn't for me, I want to be an apprentice and work through an apprenticeship program. Maybe this isn't for me, I want to be a service provider and support the supply chain. Or maybe this is for me and I want to continue this technical assistance program and really feel like I can apply for this license and be a good owner. That we want people to walk away with something empowered like that. And then establish, right? Like I mentioned, even if you go through all 10 levels of our technical assistance program, all 60 plus modules, even though we're not guaranteeing that you'll get a license, if you happen to go through and you feel confident, you apply for a license, you get that license, and you thank us, listen, that is the creme de la creme, the cherry on top. We would love to see our students go through the technical assistance program, actually apply, actually win a license, and then maybe give us a little kudos and thanks for giving them the information that was foundational in helping them get to this place. We would love that. That would be a big win for everybody. So educate, empower, and establish. This is not all, though. Before we even talk about what else is in the works, we got other things that we need to do outside of the actual core curriculum. We have a legacy to legal curriculum and webinars that we're working on. We are doing another phase 2 integration of courses around ancillary businesses who are helping the supply chain. Where do ancillary businesses play a role and why they are important? We are also working on doing a business 101 for cannabis entrepreneurs. A lot of these cannabis entrepreneurs who are trying to go for a license don't have any business experience. They've never run a business. They never started an LLC. They don't know the difference between a C Corp and an S Corp. Don't talk to them about pro formas or financial forecasting. They don't have that baseline understanding. They don't have MBAs. So we're going to be creating kind of a business 101 for cannabis entrepreneurs so they can feel settled and secured that when they establish a business meant to go into cannabis, that they have all the business information that they need. So we're going to be adding more and more things to the Cannabis Training Academy. And then while we are getting ready for launch, which I can only hint that we will be ready to launch by fall, cross your fingers, back to school mentality, while we are building the cannabis technical assistance program, we are going to be doing a bunch of things in terms of interagency partnerships and workshops, webinars, going out and speaking and promoting the technical assistance program, creating supplemental information like these municipalities 101. What do municipalities need to know if they have not opted in to allow cannabis businesses within their jurisdiction? What do they need to know so they can open up their doors and allow more businesses to participate if it works for the community? And then continuing to make sure that we are educating people about just the New Jersey cannabis market in general for those that are interested in participating in it. So just a short recap, like I said, the Cannabis Training Academy is an online, asynchronous, no-cost technical assistance program meant to help you understand the cannabis application process step by step, page by page, to help you feel empowered to apply for a cannabis license. We have 25 of the best instructors from inside and outside the state teaching you to the T of what you need to know so that you feel empowered. And whether or not you decide to go for a license or you do go for a license, that if you feel that you made the best business decision for yourself, given the best information that we could provide, that to us is a huge win. We did our job. So that is kind of a quick little, but I guess not so quick wrap up of the technical assistance program from the Garden State. Okay, Jim, back to you. I'm done.
Thank you for that, Tahid. Definitely very interesting information. I certainly learned a lot just kind of understanding what the CTA will be doing. I know that you mentioned apprenticeships in your presentation. Does the CTA facilitate those apprenticeships, or how does that process work within the cannabis space?
So we are very lucky that we are seeing a lot of different government agencies in New Jersey work together to supply support into the industry, whether that's from a worker perspective, a union perspective, or a licensing operating perspective. So to your question, we don't actually specifically run the apprenticeship program. The New Jersey Department of Labor, in partnership with UFCW, which I'm sure y'all are familiar with, that's a huge union out here in New Jersey and in the country. DOL has partnered with UFCW and Rowan University to create this apprenticeship program. And the first iteration of this apprenticeship program, I believe it happened last year. They brought people to Rowan University. They had hands-on workshop experience from different parts of, or different experts from the supply chain system. So someone from as a cultivator talks about what it means to run a cultivation shop. Someone from processing talks about what does it mean to be a worker inside a processing shop. And then they took these students into different brick and mortars of these supply chain system businesses, right? So they went to go see a cultivation, they went to go see a manufacturing site, they went to go talk to workers at a retail store. And then the idea of this apprenticeship program is that if you are able to stay with the entire apprenticeship program, you are then able to be placed into a specific cannabis business that has partnered with the program as well. So some people, I believe, are now in the process of interviewing or onboarding for dispensaries. Some of them are in the process of interviewing and or onboarding maybe at a cultivation site. But the idea is for people who are interested in starting into the cannabis industry but don't know where to start. This apprenticeship program is meant to be kind of a workforce development pipeline for the workers of the industry.
Great. And that actually kind of leads nicely into my next question. I know that we talked about this previously, but what other intergovernmental agencies or support needs to happen outside of, say, like the Department of Labor? And can you go into more detail on that?
Yeah, there's I think every state government can play a role in supporting the cannabis industry, right? This is a still very young nascent industry that is navigating a whole lot of hurdles and loopholes. I mean, the fact that it is a Schedule One narcotic makes it a very intriguing and interesting plant uh, product, commodity, medicine, consumable to deal with, right? And I said those things because those touch different agencies, right? So if you're an agency that deals with consumables and consumers, like what can you do to get involved to educate the consumer when they go into a retail spot, right? So, the working with consumer affairs, for example, is that we're trying to figure out what are some educational webinars that we could use to let the public know, hey, if you are interested in buying weed, here's what you need to know before you buy. Here's what you need to do if you're looking at a package, et cetera, et cetera. There is a really cool agency called the EDA, which is the Economic Development Agency. They are, and I believe they were the first, at least, don't quote me on that, to really allow or to really offer a ton of money, not a super amount, but $250,000 grants and $150,000 grants to cannabis operators who are already in the licensing process, whether they receive their conditional license and are halfway through the process of getting their annual license, which you need to fully function as a cannabis business in New Jersey, or they already acquired their cannabis license, their annual license, and are up and running, but needed some additional financial support to pay for the cost of build out, brick and mortar, any sort of expenses that go into a build out. The EDA really was able to provide a lot of money, and I believe that they gave out over $20 million in grants, which sounds like a lot, which is still one of the biggest of its time, but it needs to be more, right? We know cannabis operators are struggling, especially if you're a mom and pop, solopreneur with two other people. $150,000 is good, but it only takes you so far. $250,000 is good, but it only takes you so far. So, I always look at agencies that can provide more grants and financial assistance, whether that's forgivable loans or rebates or grants. That's what state agencies can be doing. Other state agencies can do public information outreach to let people know about the cannabis industry, about safe consumerism, and making good consumer choices for themselves. I know that the CRC could always use more support in just amplifying and getting the word out about the licensing process, about the medical marijuana industry as well. Because remember, even though New Jersey legalized for adult use, we still have our medical program too. There's still a lot of work to do for the patients who need access to cannabis. The Department of Health could obviously use more support in getting that word out too. So I think, education, obviously, that's what I'm here for. Education, money, and then making sure that people are being the most conscious consumers, conscious patients that they can, so that they are making the best purchases for themselves and making this industry a better industry in totality too.
Yeah, that's all awesome. There's so much going on, and I know I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs within the cannabis space about the barriers. I know read an article about upstate New York and how people were being charged 2 to 3 times what normal rent would be, just because they heard that it was going to be a cannabis business. Is there
The
anything in
Greens
New
tax,
Jersey?
yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything in New Jersey to, whether within the law or within um, the government agencies to kind of prevent that from happening in New Jersey?
Unfortunately not. Now I will say municipalities can um, add on a up to 2% excise fee tax to their cannabis businesses that operate. They can't go over any more than that. But when the CREAM Act, as it was called, when the CREAM Act was passed, it basically gave municipalities a lot of power and control. And we see this in other states like California. It gave the municipalities a lot of power and control to first decide whether or not they wanted to opt in or opt out of the industry, right? They could decide not to allow any cannabis businesses to operate, but they could not bar delivery. They can't bar people from having cannabis in their jurisdiction, but they could bar licenses from actually developing within their jurisdiction. So a lot of municipalities, because the turnaround time, I kid you not, was like less than 2 months or so when the final laws and the regulations were enacted. The municipalities had a very small window of time to decide whether or not they were going to allow all licenses to operate, some licenses to operate, or not allow any. Majority of them are like, we need to understand this more, because they weren't really educated about what it means to have a cannabis business in their locality. Many of them have decided to opt out, and now they're starting to see some of the benefits or some of the drawbacks of allowing cannabis businesses to operate in their neighboring municipalities. So can I say with authority and confidence that there aren't some interesting things happening at the municipal level that are probably shady? Absolutely not. Definitely there's some shady stuff happening at the municipal level. But unfortunately, the way that the law and the regulations are written is that municipalities ultimately have the final say on how many licenses they allow in their municipality, where those businesses can operate, and ultimately who gets the final approval. I'm sure some of your students and people who are on this Zoom or going to watch, they probably hear that the three biggest barriers of entry for any cannabis operator is investment, capital, and financing, having the money to continue this journey, getting real estate, which is tied to money, finding a location that is actually properly zoned from the municipality and the state, and securing that while having to pay a green tax, like you mentioned, Jim. As soon as a landlord hears that you're opening a cannabis operator or operation, they're going to upcharge you. Just prepare for that, right? And then the third thing that is the barrier of entry is getting municipal approval. So that really gets into the politics of things too. If you don't know your council members at the municipal level, if you haven't been seen or if you haven't done any community engagement, at a time to make yourself more exposed, the chances of you getting that approval is very slim. And so those three things have been critically the biggest things from stopping people from getting their final licenses. A lot of people in the process from New Jersey, there's the conditional license, which means that you can apply for a conditional license with certain things that are left out of your application. Maybe you don't have real estate secured yet. Maybe you don't have municipal approval secured yet. Maybe you don't have real estate secured yet, but you have a business plan, you have financial forecasting, you have certain documents ready for review. You can apply for a conditional license. The CRC can approve you for a conditional license, but now you actually have to do the work to continue to secure financing, get that actual site controlled in your designated municipality, and then also get the municipality to approve you and say, yes, we're going to give you, allow you to have a license to operate here too. And those are kind of the three biggest barriers of entry that go from conditional to annual license too. So we have a whole lot of people in New Jersey who are getting conditional licenses, which is good. But now whether or not they will get over the hump to get and acquire those three big things, that's going to be the interesting part to see as we move into this year and into next year too. And again, we've only been around I think we've only been operating technically for 2 years, right? So this is still a very small market. We still have way more operators to open up and actually launch, but real estate is heavy. Financial is heavy. Municipalities, politics is politics. So regardless of how informed you are, you still have to do the work to get the things that you need. And that's what is really important.
And do those municipalities, do they have kind of the freedom to uh, opt in whenever they want, or was that just like a one-time thing? Now that they've opted out, it's for good.
They can opt in at any point. A lot of these municipalities that we're seeing now are passing ordinances that are specifically naming the amount of licenses and the types of licenses that they're willing to accept, naming the zoning criteria and where these businesses can exist. So you can remain opt out for as long as you want, but you can opt in at any point by passing an ordinance, making sure that that's actually codified within your municipal law.
Great. And to kind of piggyback off that, what does ongoing advocacy look like following legalization? What still kind of needs to be done and pushed through? I would assume that getting municipalities to opt in is probably a part of that, but would love to hear your thoughts on that.
A couple things that are happening. So let's start with the current operators. More money and financing. They need more money. They need more financing. They want rebates. They want grants. I think many of them will even take loans if it was offered to them. So current operators need to have a lot more financial support. Current operators also need to understand and need more guidance and information around compliance, right? What does it mean to be in compliance and stay in compliance amidst all, ongoing rules and regulations and law changes? We know that once a law is passed, doesn't mean it's going to stay static forever. Just because rules and regulations are passed doesn't mean it's going to be static forever. So as things continue to evolve, operators really want to be on the forefront to knowing that they are working in compliance so they do not get a surprise visit with a surprise fine right next to it, right? And then operators are looking for ways to market and advertise, right? New Jersey is a pretty restrictive market in terms of advertising. And so they are trying to figure out ways to not be shadow banned on Instagram, but also to reach the community members that they're operating to. So that's from an operator perspective. Workers are looking to get paid more, obviously. Workers are looking to expand their education and information and climb the ladder that they want to climb, or shift into owner operator, which is our technical assistance program could help them understand those bigger nuances. But workers are looking for more money, more opportunities, and ways to get higher and expand their involvement in the industry. And then other things in terms of just ongoing hardships. Municipalities opting in. Obviously, we need more municipalities to opt in because the real estate game is a shark eats shark. Like everybody is eating each other, trying to get these municipalities to open up because the real estate is so limited. And then the major thing, in my opinion, is home grow. New Jersey, I believe, is the only state that has legalized for adult use that has remained as has continuously criminalized home grow. So you can still go to jail, you can still be incarcerated for growing your own medicine. And so we're actually seeing a really big push from the advocacy, from the grassroots level to legalize home grow. I think the basic ask is to at least, at the very least, allow medical marijuana patients to grow their own medicine, or at least enable caregivers to grow their own medicine. But ultimately, I think the general consensus is that nobody wants to be incarcerated for growing a plant. And so the advocates are really pushing both their politicians and the governor to give some sort of relief to allow people to grow without any fear of punishment. So there's a lot of working movement around that. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in New Jersey, but safe to say that I'm really happy to see that the advocates didn't just celebrate and say, all right, we did our job, like we're done, adult use happens. They're actually actively, continuously pushing to make this market a better market and hopefully, the best market on the East Coast, maybe the country.
And so, what are the opportunities for like public-private partnerships in this space? Seems like there could be a tremendous opportunity for that.
Yeah, so one thing that I will plug in, the New Jersey Business Action Center, and this was the first time that I went to something like this last year, but it's a really great example. So they have the New Jersey Business Action Center has these workshops called Resources for Growth. And what they do is they get all the government agencies that they typically partner with, and they get the local government municipality agencies and community organizations and different like let's say credit unions and other financial institutions and reentry services too to come together to support small business owners. And so you get a one-stop workshop, so to speak, to meet with different government agencies that are there to help support your specific endeavor or specific business. And so to see that happen, I've never really, even in all the states that I've lived in, I've lived in Arizona, I've lived in California, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Jersey, I had not seen a government agency really take the lead in kind of getting all these agencies and community groups into one place in the effort to support different industries as well. So I kind of want to do that in terms of the cannabis operators and cannabis entrepreneurs, is to look at and find all the government agencies in New Jersey that are willing and are able and are capable without any federal interference to come out and work with these cannabis operators and tell them about the programs that they have, the financials support that they offer, any business support that they offer, and bring them into the room so that the operators don't feel left out, so that the workers don't feel left out, and so that people who are thinking about going into the industry, whether they're a worker or they want to get a license, know that these agencies and that these programs exist to help them along the way so that they don't feel like they're left out to dry and that the government's not there to help them. There are agencies that are there and willing to help them. They have just never been really interfacing with these operators before. They've never been part of the cannabis community before. They've never reached out or marketed to them before. So for the New Jersey Business Action Center to kind of be that convener is huge. And we've had a really good turnout. We've had more than 40 different private public organizations, including government agencies, join these Resource for Growth workshops, and we've had more than 400 people RSVP, with at least 200 people showing up to understand what available opportunities are for them. So that has been really cool, and I really hope to see more of that. And I really encourage, look at agencies in Pennsylvania that do a lot of community outreach or do a lot of convening. When it comes time for cannabis legalization, those are probably going to be the agencies you're going to want to reach out to and work with to figure out how can we bring a combination of government agencies, private entities, and community organizations together to make sure that this industry is as diverse, inclusive, equitable, supportive of the small mom and pop shops and the workers as well, and bring that all into one space. I am really, one thing that really does make me happy to see in the New Jersey market itself is that there is a level of people being genuine, especially like private companies that maybe it's a coffee shop, right? A coffee shop just shows up to one of these resources for growth and says, you know what, like, what can I do to support cannabis operators, right? Can we give discounts to cannabis workers? Can we do some sort of partnership where we have this cannabis operator table at one of our events, right? Like there are private businesses, even if they don't touch weed, even if they're not involved in weed, they do want to support the business that has opened up right next to them and they want them to succeed. So that has been a really cool thing to see is that there's a lot of collaboration at the local level. Now it's up to people like me to bring more collaboration resources from the state and from the government level too.
That's great. And one of the ideas that kind of popped in my head, is there much push behind in the industry, any sort of like franchisee, franchisor model um, in the cannabis industry? I know we talk a lot about multi-state operators um, wanting to have social equity initiatives, but curious to see how that's caught on. I know Illinois had something where they would do something like business incubation, um, where they would bring in aspiring dispensary owners, aspiring cultivators, to see their operation and kind of even work in their operation for a certain amount of time. Wanted to see how popular that was from your perspective.
So there are franchising models that are happening. I was looking up a cannabis operator called Sweet Spot. I saw them tabling somewhere, but they offer franchising opportunities for people who are interested in running retail dispensaries in New Jersey. Obviously, you guys still acquire the site, still got to get your approval, you got to go through all the hurdles. But they are offering what appears to be a turnkey thing of they'll be able to provide all the resources if you run the actual store. Franchising from a legalizing advocacy perspective, it wasn't kind of a central point or focal point. It's one of those things that is allowable by the law and the rules and regulations. But we also have other out-of-state operators doing this type of franchising too, even if they're not a massive multi-state operator. For example, one of the people that I know who is running Simply Pure Trenton, Tahir, who I'm sure y'all may have heard of or seen everywhere. He's everywhere from New Jersey. But Tahir is operating under Simply Pure Trenton. Well, that's owned by Wanda James out in Colorado, who is the first Black woman to own and operate a cannabis dispensary in Colorado. She's bringing her kind of franchise model out to New Jersey and helping Tahir build out the brick and mortar of his dispensary too. So I think when it comes to local owned mom and pop community owned cannabis operations, that is definitely a huge emphasis in New Jersey. Has that stopped big corporations from coming in and trying to gobble up the market share? Absolutely not. But from what I've seen, there is a concentrated effort for these local single-owned cannabis businesses to work together and support each other so that they can all survive and thrive together rather than just sell out or be bought out and then, not have their dreams realized in the way that they wanted it to be.
Definitely, yeah, definitely creating kind of that evergreen, long-lasting generational wealth certainly seems to be that focal point. Now, in terms of kind of how you've grown in this role and how the CTA has grown, how are you working with other states to kind of learn and share ideas, and how does that all work?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we are trying to, and I'm just dropping the Sweet Spot franchising um information, and I'm plugging in into the Zoom chat the ctanj.gov website, web link for folks. Um, so to can you repeat your question, Jim? It was
How are you working with other states to learn and share ideas?
yes, yeah. So we talked with Maryland and we're talking with Connecticut, but states are very interested in this model because in many other states, there have been what they're calling social equity programs, but they're very small, right? They're small in size in terms of resources. They're small in size in terms of cohorts, right? Typically, social equity programs that we've seen in other states, you have to have already applied for a license and got your license, or you have to be in the middle of getting your licenses and have been deemed a social equity applicant, or you have to have already met some sort of prerequisites to even be considered for this cohort. For our program, it is all, like I said, it's all online, no cost, free, go at your own pace. We trust people say who they are. You attest that you're a New Jersey resident, ages 21 years and older, and then you have access to all this online programming. And most of it is module based, right? Like I'm sure many of you all have done like online teaching. It's very much in that same vein of it's online, it's videos, PowerPoint presentations, supplemental information, different links and all that. Well, we're trying to bring this around the country because we believe that at the very least, really good education and really good information around this nascent but multi-billion dollar industry should be free, should be accessible, and should be inclusive of everybody, who, no matter what stage of the game you are in the cannabis industry, whether you have just smoked weed for the first time and you have this epiphany, to you've been in the game for more than 2 decades and you're now interested in jumping in as a owner operator. Everyone should have this level of access of information, and it should be the correct information, grounded in science, grounded in evidence, and grounded in truth and history. And so we are really talking to other state agencies to say at a fundamental baseline, outside of your regulatory commission or agency, it shouldn't be just on them to educate the masses. Every department should have some sort of education component around cannabis. And there should be some sort of state agency that runs a technical assistance program so people know what they're getting themselves into. For too many times, and I've seen this too many times, and I've heard too many stories, people go in thinking that they can get a license, that they have the best team in the world, that they have this deal locked in, this site locked in, only for everything to fall apart. People deserve to have the foundational baseline information of what they're getting themselves into and what does it actually take before they decide to get a second mortgage on their house, before they decide to pull out their 401ks, before they decide to quit their jobs to be like, I can raise 3.5 to $5 million. No joke. Like I've had people do that. Like we are telling state government agencies to create accessible information channels so that people can understand at a baseline what does it take to operate in this industry as from a business perspective, and let people make the best decisions for themselves before they do that. And we've received some really good information and some really good support from other agencies, like Maryland, for example, really likes the idea of doing online based rather than cohort based, right? They know that not everyone's going to be able to travel physically to a destination to do these trainings. So make it online and accessible so that anyone can open up their phone and log in and start watching. Or someone can be at their desktop and be like, you know what, I have 15 minutes. Let me learn about, management service contracting agreements, right? Like being able to be accessible at all points is what we're trying to push, and making sure that we are bringing the best people to bring the best information so that people can make the best decisions, is what we're emphasizing. And so we do hope, and we've heard from other state governments too, like, oh, one, we don't even have this technical assistance program in mind. We never even thought about it. And two, we don't even have a business action center like New Jersey does to advocate for small businesses, to help people understand what do these small operators need to survive and thrive and expand in their state. And so we've received some really good feedback that people want to make a NJ back within their state agencies and then offer this technical assistance program too. And you have to remember too, when legalization started well past Colorado, many of these states did not roll out any technical assistance program, right? Some of these states still do not have a technical assistance program at the state level where it helps people understand the application process 1 to 10, A to Z. Some of them don't even offer that. It's kind of like, oh, figure it out for yourself. Here's the rules. Here's the law. Good luck getting swindled for tens of thousands of dollars by some attorney. People don't even have that baseline information. So we're really trying to emphasize to other state governments is to provide this as a baseline. It's the least the government could do, the very least.
Yeah, definitely. So we got a question directly to me in the chat. How has New Jersey kept the licensing so controlled compared to New York, and particularly New York City in particular?
Y'all, listen, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. There is always a fear, no matter what state you are. There's always a fear of litigation. And there has been plenty of litigation, i.e. New York, but i.e. Florida, i.e. Illinois, California, even New Jersey has been litigated too. In 2019, we were supposed to expand what were called alternative treatment centers, ATCs. Those were the medical marijuana dispensaries and operators that were there pre-legalization. Um, the Department of Health that was overseeing the licensing application process said that they wanted to open it up to like 200 licenses. And then they dwindled it down to 25. And then they paused the licensing process. And then they only allowed a certain amount of licenses to actually be approved. So someone eventually sued to stop the process, to review the process, and then to actually have, I guess, a more transparent selection process of those ATCs, which were then grandfathered into the adult use program. But out of that litigation, New Jersey has not been hit with any sort of major disruption like New York has. And I don't necessarily have a convenient or a specific direct answer as to this is the true reason and this is the true cause. I think people feel a certain way when you say that people who have been directly impacted by the war on drugs should have first dibs and first consideration, or at least first opportunity. Some people feel that that's not fair. Some people don't feel like it's fair that certain licenses are allowed for specific types of groups or communities to be considered first before they are considered. Some people don't like that. And knowing that New York City, especially, has such a high potential for a lot of money to be made. And we are seeing the dispensaries that are justice involved and justice first that have opened up in some of the highest traffic areas of New York City start reaping those benefits. People are starting to get a little bit angry that they don't have that opportunity for whatever way, shape, or form. New Jersey has been very, very lucky in the sense that I think that they, for certain reasons, have allowed people to go for licenses at the state level, whether it's a conditional and annual, but they have kind of given the municipalities all of the, I wouldn't say all the power, but have kind of leaned on the municipalities to kind of be those people in those areas that you have to deal with more than you have to deal with the state. To get a conditional license or an annual license, I'm not going to say it's easy, but to get that conditional license doesn't take a ton of effort versus having to convince a municipality to give you a resolution, to having to convince a landlord to let them rent you out your space, to have to convince investors to give you money. Those three things are out of state control, and so they don't have any ability, nor are they given the powers to really dictate those things. And so I think New Jersey people have a lot more things that they have to deal with versus waiting on, someone like an OCM to do most of that work and codifying and approval rather than New Jersey. I feel for New York. I think the spirit of the MRTA, the intention behind it, if you read the law, is really sound, right? They did try to emphasize people who have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs to have these priority opportunities and these priority licensing reviews to get priority licenses to operate before everybody. I get that. But some people see it differently, and therefore they bring the law, they bring the lawyers in to argue the law. And even though OCM has won most of the court cases, I think the running series is now 4 cases won versus that one loss. That one loss is still huge because it stopped the licensing process because it was litigated, and then it forced them to open it up faster than they had hoped for the people who are justice involved. So I feel for New York. I really wish them well. I don't, and I'm just grateful and thankful that New Jersey, for whatever reason, outside of multiple factors here, have not been hit as hard with any sort of big litigation that has paused the entire system. I think that because New Jersey has been trucking along so consistently now, it's almost too hard to stop, right? Like the snowball is already going, the licenses are being approved, municipalities are now slowly opening, money is coming in, cultivators are coming online, things are moving, even though it's a slow pace, they're moving forward. We have more than 100 dispensaries open. It's very hard to litigate the process when it's already out versus New York, where they just started and then they were litigated right as they started, right? I think if you are trying to litigate, people are going to try to lawyer up early and stop anybody from opening up. New Jersey has already opened up the floodgates to a degree, and now it's really hard to litigate that. It's going to be very hard for a judge to throw anything out and say, this doesn't work. Well, Judge, we've already have hundreds of businesses operating. You really can't make that argument now. If you're from New York, I'm sorry. Like, keep fighting the good fight. If you're the person who asked and you're in New York, I'm sorry, but keep fighting the good fight because I believe that the people in New York are working with the best intentions. They have the best hearts in mind, and they will get through this at some point. So stay patient as best as you can, if you can.
So
Or
I
come
think
to
we got,
Jersey. Come to Jersey.
yeah, let's go through the tunnel. So I think we got time for one more question, and it's kind of tangentially related to kind of what's been going on in New York. But a lot of the conversation, and I really appreciated the talk about the barriers from the business side, but knowing that kind of bringing the legacy market into the legal market and trying to either grandfather people in or I know we talked about a lot about barriers financially, real estate. What kind of outreach is either the CTA doing or New Jersey doing that, um, or really any other state that you know that has been really successful at kind of bringing the legacy market into the legal market and really merging that?
So I will say, the state, and particularly the CRC, has done a good job, and they are doing a good job in the sense that they tap the credible messengers, many of them incredible, the credible messengers that work in the legacy market. They have since 2021 have done multiple roundtable discussions with different legacy operators across the legacy supply chain system to ask them, what is it going to take to transition from legacy to legal, and what are the types of resourcing or support that they can provide utilizing the cannabis tax revenue to help people transition from the underground to the legal market. And one of those outcomes of those conversations, these roundtable discussions that they did, was the creation of the Cannabis Training Academy, right? I think I was looking at the public testimony that was submitted within I think 2022 and 2023. The word education appeared almost 100 times from various different people saying we need to be informed. We need to understand what's at stake. We need to understand what the true penalties are for continuing to operate in the illicit market, so to speak. And so there was a massive emphasis to have the education free and accessible to make those informed decisions. And for our end of the Cannabis Training Academy too, we recognize that again, not everyone's going to be able to get a license. Not everyone is rolling in millions of dollars that it takes to really just get to operations. I'm not even talking about like succeeding and blowing the competition out of the water. I'm talking about just getting to operation, to getting your doors open. We recognize that that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, nor is that feasible for everybody. So I mentioned the legacy to legal curriculum. The one thing that we've been doing in talks with the people that we know in the legacy market within New Jersey is to develop a curriculum that basically says, listen, you do with this information that you want. We're going to talk to you about the application process. We're going to talk to you about what it would take to transition from legacy to legal. You do what you want with this information. But our goal is to, one, if you feel so inclined and inspired to move from the underground to the legal, you feel empowered again to make those decisions for yourself. But if you choose to decide to stay within the legacy market, our curriculum will hopefully, in our webinars too around legacy, will hopefully inform you to one, understand the laws at hand so that you are aware of, the big penalties that it still takes to grow your own weed or distribute weed that's not from a dispensary. Like I said, you can still be incarcerated. You can be fined and incarcerated for still growing your own medicine. We want to inform operators that, hey, at least you know your rights. At least you know the law to a T. That can keep you a little bit more safe or give you a little bit more consciousness about what you're doing should you decide to go down that road. We want to teach legacy operators about financing too. Like if you are running an operations, do you really have a financial accounting of all the things that you're doing in terms of operating under the table, so to speak? Button up your operations so that not you're just safe, but your consumers, your patients, your community, your family is safe. If you choose not to transition to the legacy or into the legal market, at least up your quality, up your professionalism, up your security, so that everyone can operate in a more safer manner. We know that not every legacy operator is going to move over. That's okay. We understand that this market was here well before any of us were here, right? And it will continue to operate here, right? It will continue to be here. but we're asking legacy operators to at least be informed so that you can make better conscious business decisions that keep yourself safe and everyone else around you safe too.
I did want to just touch on one question in the chat, Tahid, from Dr. Bargava, about licensing in what I believe is the hemp market. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Bargava. But do those hemp-derived stores, like the kind of like the gas station products, or do those stores require licensing at all?
So New Jersey, if you want to operate as a hemp operator, you still have to get a license. Um, are the barriers of entry astronomical like cannabis? No. It's hemp, as we know, it's not a Schedule I narcotic. So there's a lot more financial, banking, ancillary support around that system. The problem is that the Farm Bill has made it so broad that there are very hard regulations that tailor to quality hemp products versus not tested, not quality products as well. And in fact, we were actually speaking to one of the people who runs the New Jersey hemp program. And, this comes down to supporting farmers really at the beginning, is that a lot of these farmers can't afford to grow hemp because they don't have the money to buy these expensive equipments to mass produce different types of hemp products, whether that's like CBD or whether that's for building construction. The farmers are already struggling, and because there seems to be a glut of hemp products all over the country, because again, it's not as regulated, it's not there's not as much stringent testing or determinations of what is quality and what's not. They're now competing not just with each other, but from out of state hemp products that are coming from elsewhere too. So in terms of, is it easier to get a license in the hemp space for New Jersey? I believe so. Yes, you're not going to spend 3.5 to $5 million to try to get operational. But, is the hemp market thriving in New Jersey? Absolutely not. There's way more confusion about regulations. There's way more confusion about marketing. There's misinformation that the consumers are confused about. They don't know what Delta 8 is. They don't understand what the Delta 9 of hemp-derived Delta 9 means. They're going into these gas stations and buying, THC hemp gummies, not realizing that these are like 100 milligrams per gummy, and eating them and then thinking it's weed and then having a terrible trip and all. Like, it's just it's bad. So I will say, yes, you can get a license, but it's no way easier to participate in that industry because there's not a lot of clarity, there's not a lot of guidance, and there isn't a concentrated amount of effort to support the hemp farmers either. Much like cannabis cultivators, if we do not support the farmers and we do not support the cultivators, the people who grow the actual plant, none of this works. And so the hemp market, for better or worse, is not where it needs to be. But because it is not federally legal, there are more opportunities at hand. That's what I can say. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I certainly understood it a little bit better after the answer. Thanks a lot, Tahid, for you presenting today. I certainly learned a lot myself. Hope everyone watching also did as well. We will be having our next speaker series on May 6th on tolerance breaks. Little panel discussion with Emily Ansel, Tom Fontana, and Ben Cocciaro, Ben from our team at Drexel. Just wanted to say thanks again, Tahid. Absolutely great presentation. Looking forward to a lot of the great things that you're doing at the Cannabis Training Academy.
Thank you, Jim and Drexel, for having me. My aunt and her husband graduated from Drexel, so it's great to speak at their alma mater. I feel very blessed and very happy to be here. And again, I dropped my information in the Zoom chat, so if any of y'all want to get in touch, I am, for better or worse, all over the internet. So follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, maybe add me on Facebook. I might say yes, but you can follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help support and, support the Garden State, right? Go Jersey, go weed, go cannabis, keep advocating, and talk to your politicians too. Let's go, Pennsylvania. We're waiting.